Walk past any major commercial construction site in Manhattan today. Look up through the scaffolding, past the safety netting, past the ironworkers bolting steel 30 stories above the street. If you could step through the fence and onto that job site, you would notice something that almost no American consumer has ever seen. The tools are red. Not Milwaukee red, not Craftsman red, a different red entirely. The drills are red. The rotary hammers are red. The powder-actuated fasteners are red. The diamond core drills cutting through reinforced concrete are red. The laser layout equipment shooting reference lines across raw concrete floors, red. And the name stamped on every single one of those tools is Hilti. Hilti is not an American company. It is headquartered in Liechtenstein, a country wedged between Austria and Switzerland with a total population of roughly 40,000 people. That is smaller than most American counties, smaller than Tuscaloosa, Alabama, smaller than Fargo, North Dakota. And yet this company, founded in 1941 by a mechanical engineer in a rented workshop, has become the dominant tool supplier on virtually every major commercial high-rise construction site in the United States. You will not find Hilti at Home Depot. You will not find it at Lowe's. You will not find it at your local hardware store or industrial supply house. The brand does not sell through retail. It does not advertise on television. It does not sponsor NASCAR teams or run Super Bowl commercials. And that is exactly how Hilti built a position so thorough that the crews raising skylines in Miami, Chicago, Dallas, Houston, and Atlanta now run an entire tool platform from a country most Americans cannot find on a map. This is the story of how they did it. And it starts with a workshop, a brother, and a bet on a technology that nobody else wanted. Liechtenstein is a constitutional monarchy, about 62 square miles in total area. The entire country is roughly the size of Washington, D.C. It sits high in the Alps, bordered by Switzerland to the west and Austria to the east. The population is approximately 40,000 people. There are more registered companies in Liechtenstein than citizens. The capital is Vaduz, and the largest private employer in the country, by a significant margin, is Hilti. In 1941, a 26-year-old engineer named Martin Hilti and his older brother Eugen opened a mechanical workshop in the town of Schaan. Martin had studied mechanical engineering and automotive design at the Wismar Engineering College in Germany. The workshop started as a contract manufacturing operation, producing components for the automotive sector. It was modest. 2 brothers, a handful of machines, subcontract work to pay the rent. After the war, orders collapsed, and the company was on the edge of bankruptcy. To survive, Martin Hilti took any job he could find. Gray cast iron parts for the Swiss textile industry, egg cup molds for a kitchenware company, cigarette lighters, a water-powered kitchen mixer called the Elo, which actually sold reasonably well for a while. The company made pencil sharpeners. This was not a construction empire. This was a workshop doing whatever it took to keep the doors open. But Martin Hilti had encountered something in the late 1940s that changed his thinking entirely. A technology for driving fasteners directly into concrete and masonry using a controlled explosive charge. The concept was crude at the time. The early tools were unreliable and sometimes dangerous, but Hilti saw something in the idea that nobody else was willing to invest in. He acquired the original designs and the patent rights, and he spent years of development work turning an unreliable concept into a tool that could survive daily abuse on a construction site. In 1952, Hilti launched its first construction-related product, a manual tool designed to drive threaded studs into steel. The following year came the Perfix, a powder-actuated, high-velocity fastener that could set hardened nails directly into poured concrete. This was the moment the company pivoted from survival manufacturing into construction tooling. And the timing was extraordinary, because the post-war building boom was accelerating across both Europe and North America, and contractors desperately needed faster methods for attaching materials to concrete and structural steel. By the mid-1950s, Hilti was growing fast. The company opened subsidiaries across Europe and then crossed the Atlantic. It established its first American subsidiary in 1952, headquartered in Stamford, Connecticut. By the early 1960s, Hilti was operating in roughly 30 countries, and the product line was expanding beyond powder-actuated tools into something even more ambitious. In 1967, Hilti introduced the TE-17, the company's first fully electro-pneumatic rotary hammer drill. It featured a safety clutch and shipped to customers in what would become one of the most recognizable details in the construction tool industry, a distinctive red toolbox. The TE prefix, short for a German phrase meaning development, became the standard naming convention for every Hilti electro-pneumatic tool that followed. That naming system is still in use today, more than 50 years later. By 1971, global revenue had reached 376 million Swiss francs across 45 countries. In 1964, Eugen Hilti died at the age of 53. Martin assumed full control of the company. And he made a decision in those years that would define the trajectory of the business for the next 8 decades. He decided that Hilti would not sell through distributors. This is the point where Hilti's story splits from every other professional tool brand operating in the American market. DeWalt sells through big box retail and industrial supply channels. Milwaukee sells through Home Depot and regional distributors. Makita sells through an authorized dealer network. Bosch Professional moves through a mix of distributors and specialty retailers. Every major tool brand, American or foreign, follows the same basic model. You engineer the tool, you manufacture it, you ship it to a distributor or a retail chain. The distributor places it on a shelf or in a catalog. The contractor walks in and buys it or orders it online. Hilti rejected that entire system. Instead, Martin Hilti built a direct sales force. Hilti representatives would go directly to construction sites. They would walk the scaffolding. They would speak with foremen, superintendents, project managers, and general contractors. They would demonstrate tools on active projects under real-world conditions, in the same concrete the crew was pouring that day. And they would write supply contracts directly with the general contractor, not with a purchasing department sitting in an office park, not with a retail buyer choosing products for a shelf, with the person running the project. This model is extraordinarily expensive. Maintaining a dedicated field sales force with thousands of trained account managers costs far more than shipping pallets to a Home Depot distribution center and letting the retail margin handle your customer interface. But the direct model created something that no amount of shelf placement or catalog advertising could ever replicate. Relationships built on the job site floor, between people who both understand the work. A Hilti account manager does not contact you from a call center. A Hilti account manager shows up on your job site, often daily during major project phases, wearing the same steel-toe boots as the crew, carrying a demo bag with the latest rotary hammer or an upgraded diamond core drill, offering to let you run the tool on the actual slab you are pouring that week. They know the project timeline. They know which trade contractors are on site and which ones are coming next month. They know which tools are failing and which ones are performing. And when a tool goes down mid-pour, they do not ask you to fill out a warranty form and wait 6 to 8 weeks. They bring a replacement unit to the job site, sometimes within hours, sometimes within the hour. Over 4,000 Hilti account managers, engineers, and support staff operate across North America today. That is not a sales team. That is a standing army deployed on American construction sites from Boston to San Diego. In 1979, the company opened a production facility in Tulsa, Oklahoma, manufacturing anchoring systems on American soil. This was not a token gesture. Hilti was building a permanent manufacturing presence in the country it intended to dominate. The American headquarters eventually moved from Stamford to Tulsa, and then, in 2015, relocated to Plano, Texas, where Hilti also opened a research and development center in nearby Irving. Today, Hilti operates 8 major production facilities worldwide: in Schaan, in Thüringen in Austria, in Kaufering and Strasse in Germany, in Zhanjiang and Shanghai in China, in Kecskemét in Hungary, and in Matamoros, Mexico. The company was not simply selling into the American market from across an ocean. It was planting roots inside it, hiring American engineers, training American sales representatives, and building a domestic infrastructure that made it feel less like a foreign import and more like a permanent fixture of American commercial construction. If you've been watching this and you want to understand how companies build this kind of invisible dominance in American industry, subscribe to this channel, because what comes next in this story is where the full scope of the displacement becomes clear. Hilti's direct sales model created a compounding loop that competing brands have struggled to break for decades. The account manager builds the relationship. The relationship generates the supply contract. The contract locks in the entire tool platform. And once a general contractor signs a Hilti supply agreement, the transition begins across every trade on the job. Here is how it actually plays out. A commercial general contractor running a 40-story project in Houston might have electrical subcontractors running DeWalt 20-volt max cordless platforms. The concrete finishing crew might be using Bosch rotary hammers. The structural steel team might be firing Ramset powder-actuated fasteners. Everybody is on a different battery system. Everybody is sourcing tools and consumables from different vendors. Parts, service, and warranty claims run through different channels for every single trade on the project. The logistics overhead is substantial. Hilti's account manager walks onto the site and offers a unified alternative. One battery system across cordless drills, rotary hammers, impact drivers, reciprocating saws, angle grinders, and circular saws. One service contract covering warranty, repair, and tool replacement. One account manager as a single point of contact for every trade on the project. And a tool management program called Fleet Management that lets the contractor avoid the capital outlay of buying tools entirely. Instead of purchasing 30 rotary hammers at full price, the contractor pays a monthly subscription fee. Hilti owns the tools. Hilti maintains them. Hilti replaces them when they wear out. And Hilti upgrades the fleet to newer models automatically on a replacement cycle. The cost is not cheap. Hilti tools carry a price premium of approximately 30 to 50% over equivalent DeWalt or Milwaukee tools at retail. But the general contractor running a $200 million high-rise is not comparison shopping at Home Depot. The general contractor is paying for guaranteed uptime, same-day tool service, and the elimination of a procurement headache that otherwise consumes project manager hours every week on a major build. When your diamond core drill goes down on the 14th floor and the mechanical contractor cannot bore the penetration for a conduit run, the cost of the drill means nothing. The cost of the schedule delay means everything. That is the calculus Hilti exploits more effectively than any tool company on the planet. The specific product categories where Hilti dominates American commercial construction reveal exactly where the critical dollars flow in high-rise building. Start with powder-actuated fastening, the DX series. These are the tools that fire hardened steel pins directly into structural steel and concrete using a controlled cartridge charge. When an ironworker needs to attach a steel deck plate to a beam on the 22nd floor, when a fire protection installer needs to fasten a bracket to a concrete ceiling, when a drywall contractor needs to pin a metal track to a poured concrete slab, the tool firing those pins on a major commercial site in any American city is almost certainly a Hilti DX. Ramset, an American powder-actuated brand, still holds meaningful ground in this category. It is one of the few American names that competes head-to-head with Hilti in structural fastening. But Hilti's integration strategy, bundling the DX line into broader platform contracts alongside cordless tools and service agreements, means that when the general contractor signs for Hilti, the powder-actuated tools follow. Ramset does not have a cordless drill platform to bundle into a fleet contract. Ramset does not have an account manager walking the site every morning with a demo bag and a replacement unit in the van. Diamond coring and cutting. The DD350 diamond core drill is the standard tool for cutting reinforced concrete on American high-rise construction projects. When a mechanical contractor needs to bore a 6-inch hole through a 12-inch reinforced concrete wall for a pipe chase or conduit penetration, the DD350 is what they reach for. The motor power, the water management system, the bit interface, and the rig-mounting hardware are purpose-built for the dense, rebar-heavy concrete that commercial high-rises require. Bosch and Husqvarna both manufacture diamond core drills that serve the market, but Hilti's direct service model delivers the competitive separation. When the DD350 needs a new motor assembly or a fresh set of diamond segments, the Hilti account manager handles it on the job site. The Bosch alternative involves a phone call, a parts order, and a shipping delay measured in days. On a commercial project where schedule is money, that difference in response time is the entire sale. The cordless platform is where the displacement of American brands becomes most visible to the crews doing the work. Hilti launched its Neuron battery system as a unified 22-volt platform spanning more than 80 tool models. Drills, rotary hammers, impact drivers, angle grinders, reciprocating saws, circular saws, jigsaws, and dust management equipment, all running on a single battery architecture with integrated data tracking built into the battery itself. The Neuron platform competes directly with DeWalt's 20-volt Max and FlexVolt systems, Milwaukee's M18 platform, and Makita's 18-volt LXT system. On residential sites, in independent contractor trucks, and in the hands of self-employed tradesmen, DeWalt and Milwaukee absolutely still dominate the American cordless market. That reality has not changed. But on commercial high-rise projects, where the general contractor controls the tool specification for every subcontractor working on the job, Neuron is systematically replacing both. A union electrician in Boston described the transition to a trade publication. His entire battery platform changed in 18 months when his foreman switched the crew to Hilti. He had been running Milwaukee M18 tools for years. His personal preference was Milwaukee. But his foreman signed a Hilti fleet agreement for the project, and within 2 cycles of equipment replacement, every cordless tool on the truck was Hilti Red. Not because the electrician chose it, because the general contractor chose it, and the subcontractor's tool platform followed the contract. That pattern is repeating itself across every major American commercial construction market. The general contractor signs a Hilti agreement for the project. The subcontractors transition within 12 to 18 months. The DeWalt batteries, the Milwaukee chargers, the Makita impact drivers, they rotate off the truck one tool at a time until the entire platform is unified under a single red banner from a European principality with fewer residents than a single New York City zip code. Fire protection is another category where Hilti's position approaches total market control in commercial construction. Fire stopping involves sealing the gaps around pipes, cables, ducts, and conduits that penetrate fire-rated walls and floors. Every commercial building in the United States requires these assemblies to meet local fire code. The sealants, wraps, collars, and tested assemblies that contractors install to achieve fire ratings are overwhelmingly Hilti products on major projects. But the deeper lock-in is not the material itself, it is the engineering documentation. Hilti provides complete rated assembly packages that prove the installation meets the required fire rating to code. For a general contractor, those documentation packages eliminate an enormous liability exposure. When the fire inspector asks whether the pipe penetration on the 8th floor meets a 2-hour fire rating, the Hilti engineering packet answers the question with tested, certified data before the inspector finishes asking. Anchoring systems extend the dominance even further into the structural bones of American buildings. Chemical adhesive anchors, mechanical expansion anchors, cast-in-place systems, post-installed rebar connections. The adhesive anchor cartridges that bond threaded rods into drilled holes in structural concrete. The expansion anchors securing connections in seismic zones across the West Coast. Hilti's anchor portfolio has become so deeply embedded in American structural engineering practice that many engineers write Hilti product numbers directly into their structural drawings. The specification calls for a Hilti HIT-RE 500 V4 adhesive anchor, not a generic equivalent. Not an alternate brand, the specific Hilti part number, printed on the structural engineering plan that the building department reviews for permit approval. Add it all up on a single American high-rise project, and the scope is extraordinary. The powder-actuated fasteners holding the metal deck to the steel frame, the diamond core drills cutting holes through every concrete floor for mechanical and electrical systems, the cordless tools in the hands of every trade contractor on the site, the fire stop assemblies sealing every rated wall and floor penetration in the building, the anchoring systems bonding structural connections throughout the superstructure, the laser layout equipment establishing reference lines on every raw concrete slab. All of it, every category, from a single company headquartered in a town of roughly 6,000 people in the Alpine foothills. The financial numbers behind that physical presence tell the same story at global scale. In 2025, the Hilti Group reported total revenue of 6.3 billion Swiss francs. The Americas region was the strongest performer across all geographies, growing by 9.3% in local currencies. The company employs more than 34,000 people worldwide, with over 4,000 dedicated to North American operations alone. Hilti operates approximately 300,000 active contractor accounts globally, a significant share of which are American commercial general contractors. Research and development spending reached 459 million Swiss francs in 2025, representing 7.3% of total revenue. They launched more than 70 new products and services in a single calendar year. And when you consider the company's trajectory, these numbers become even more striking. In 2017, Hilti crossed the 5 billion Swiss franc revenue threshold for the first time. By 2023, revenue exceeded 6.5 billion. This is a company that has nearly doubled its revenue in under a decade, while operating entirely outside the American consumer's field of vision. 2/3 of the entire Hilti workforce works directly with customers. Not in factories, not in offices, not in logistics. On job sites, face-to-face, with the people buying the tools. All of it belongs to the Martin Hilti Family Trust. The company has never been publicly traded in any meaningful sense. In 2003, Hilti bought back its participatory shares from the Swiss Stock Exchange and went fully private. Every registered share is held by the Family Trust, which was structured to guarantee continuity of the company beyond any individual generation. Martin Hilti died in 1997 at the age of 82. His son Michael Hilti served as CEO and later as chairman of the board. Michael was elected honorary chairman for life in 2018. The current CEO, Jahangir Dongaji, is the first leader from outside the Hilti family, and the first from outside Europe. But the ownership has not changed. The trust holds every share. The trust sets the strategic direction, and because the trust does not answer to quarterly earnings calls, activist investors or Wall Street analysts demanding margin improvement every 90 days, Hilti can fund a multi-decade sales infrastructure that no publicly traded competitor has the institutional patience to replicate. That structural advantage is the deepest part of this story, and it matters more than any individual product or sales tactic. DeWalt is owned by Stanley Black & Decker, a publicly traded American conglomerate answering to Wall Street every quarter. Milwaukee is owned by Tektronic Industries, a publicly traded conglomerate headquartered in Hong Kong. Makita is publicly traded in Tokyo. Bosch's professional division competes internally for capital against Bosch's automotive division, Bosch's home appliance business, and Bosch's industrial technology group. Every one of these companies faces relentless quarterly pressure to deliver revenue growth, manage earnings per share, and justify capital expenditure to analysts who have never set foot on a commercial construction site. Hilti does not operate under that pressure. The family trust thinks in decades, not in quarters. The direct sales force, which would be considered ruinously expensive by the financial standards of any publicly traded tool company, is a long-horizon strategic investment that the trust has sustained for more than 70 years without interruption. The account manager walking your job site today is building a relationship that Hilti fully expects to generate returns for the next 20 years. No publicly traded company deploys capital with that kind of patience. The question worth asking is whether this dominance is permanent or whether it can be challenged. American commercial construction spending exceeds $2 trillion annually. The market is vast, and the tool purchasing decisions within it flow through a relatively small number of major general contractors. If DeWalt or Milwaukee committed the resources to build a dedicated commercial construction sales force, to put trained representatives on job sites across every major metropolitan market, to offer fleet management contracts and same-day service guarantees comparable to what Hilti provides, they could, theoretically, compete for those accounts. Milwaukee's M18 platform is an outstanding cordless system. DeWalt's FlexVolt lineup is proven and trusted by American tradesmen. The products themselves are not the barrier to competition, but building a direct sales organization of 4,000 trained account managers across North America takes years, not fiscal quarters. Training those representatives to discuss structural fastening specifications, fire protection engineering, adhesive anchoring in seismic zones, and diamond coring in reinforced concrete takes additional years of field experience. And sustaining that sales force through the initial period when it generates zero revenue, while burning tens of millions in payroll and training costs, requires a corporate parent willing to absorb the investment without flinching at the next earnings call. Hilti spent 85 years building this infrastructure. The family trust funded it from the beginning, through recessions and building booms, through currency headwinds and geopolitical disruptions, through every cycle of the construction economy since the middle of the 20th century. There was never a quarter where a board of outside directors voted to cut the field sales budget to protect short-term earnings. That is not a product advantage. That is a structural advantage embedded in an ownership model that American publicly traded companies simply do not have. And structural advantages rooted in ownership are the hardest kind in business to overcome. Walk past any commercial high-rise project in America tomorrow morning. Look through the chain-link fence. Look past the safety barriers and the crane base. You will see the red tools. The same red tools on every floor, in every trade, from the foundation pour to the rooftop mechanical penthouse. The company that put them there has fewer citizens back home than a single neighborhood in Brooklyn, and a patience that no quarterly earnings report has ever been able to buy. If you made it this far, you understand what this channel covers. How companies build positions in American industry so quietly that the people using their products every day have no idea where they come from or who owns them. Subscribe now because the next video tells a similar story about another brand sitting inside American infrastructure that you have probably never thought twice about. You do not want to miss it. The cranes will keep turning, the concrete will keep pouring, and the tools cutting through it, floor after floor, city after city, will keep glowing that unmistakable, uncompromising shade of red.